Go ahead and get started. All right, we'll go ahead and get started with it. Everybody's got somewhere else to be and probably 2 or 3 places at the same time. So this is the Subcommittee for Tags and Titles and Motor Vehicles. We've got one bill that we're going to hear. Representative Monahan, just wherever you want to say that. And we have House Bill 1528, and is it LC 393401S?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir. That's great.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of this committee. Proud to be here today to help solve an issue in, I think, a lot of communities, not only in Metro and Atlanta, Georgia, but also in rural Georgia. The issue of the catalytic converter theft, And so as we go through the bill, it gives you a definition on line 13. Sorry, I just had Chinese food. It's sticking to my throat. Line 13 gives you a definition of catalytic converter. And then we start getting into these sections here. We start talking about who is and isn't lawful to have these catalytic converters on their person. And so that is, obviously, we want to keep it with these registered recyclers. And look, here's the issue that's happening. Let me just kind of give y'all an overview. Let's say you take, your kids and your babies to Walmart, getting your groceries on Sunday. So you pull up there, and by the time you get out, you get back in your car, you crank it, and it sounds like a jet engine up underneath of you, okay? Especially if they cut it before the muffler. It's because somebody's got up underneath of your car with a Sawzall, and they've taken what's called a catalytic converter. It takes some types of emissions and pollution, and it heats it up, and it turns it into what is basically condensation. But these guys are getting up underneath these cars, and they're cutting them, and they're taking these things, and they're taking them to recyclers. And they got some different types of metals that are precious metals that are in them, and they're worth a whole heck of a lot of money. Just like anything else, y'all seen the new housing and all that. They take the copper pipe and everything else. It's the same type of deal. They're taking these metals out from underneath these cars to scrap them, to get their money, and it's causing a lot of headache and money to replace these things. These things go out. We have a fleet of vehicles with my business, and from time to time with a tune-up or whatever, you got to replace these things. Especially when they start getting a little age on them. Well, these little catalytic converters on a 4-cylinder Toyota is about $800-900 at the cheapest. That's if you buy it on the internet, like a Walker Universal, not a OEM or anything. That's $700-900. You start talking about a OEM, like a brand, like a Ford brand or Chevrolet, it could be $2,000-3,000. That ain't including the labor. If it's missing pipe, they've either got to cut in the pipe and weld up a custom job just to make it done. Because these guys aren't unbolting these things. They ain't spending the time to unbolt these catalytic converters out from up underneath the car. They're just cutting them with a Sawzall because it takes them all about 30 seconds. So that's the problem. This bill addresses that. Go in here, it says, line 36, provisions code section should not apply to any transaction between business entities other than those involving the transaction of catalytic converters. And this article shall, line 43, this article shall not apply to purchases of regulated metal property other than catalytic converters. So we're just talking about, what we're saying is we're just talking about catalytic converters. It's you don't go to Walmart and pick up 10 catalytic converters. Okay, this ain't something you just go and buy every day. It ain't there. So it keeps going, line 69, each used detached catalytic converter obtained shall constitute a separate offense. And then at the end, it gives some penalties for transporting or having these types of detached catalytic converters. And y'all, you're going to know it when you see it, okay? When you see 15 catalytic converters in the back of a Ford Ranger, and they all cut with a Sawzall so sharp they cut your hands, you know what they're doing. They're stealing these things. They're going to take them to a recycler. they're gonna go get a little bit of money and cause a lot of other people a whole lot of headache, including rental car companies who came to a special committee over the summer, and they testified before the House Motor Vehicles Committee about the kinds of issues they're having on their lots. And so this is a bill that addresses that issue that we studied, and I think it's a good measure, and would appreciate y'all's favorable consideration.
Question here, Chairman Corbett.
More of a comment than just a question. Georgia has probably one of the strongest metal theft laws in the country when it comes to recyclers, what they have to do when somebody brings something in, as far as driver's license, photo ID, all that. So we're probably one of the best in the country when it comes to the recyclers. What you're addressing here, and I thank you for bringing the bill, is these bad actors that will advertise online. You meet me at the Walmart parking lot at 2 a.m. We're paying $25, $50, whatever for a catalytic converter, and then they're taking them to a out of state to dispose of them.
That's right.
So I appreciate you bringing the bill.
That's right. Well, our recycling partners in the state are great. They've always been helpful to me in this committee as we've addressed these kinds of issues and other committees in the Georgia General Assembly. So we thank them for their help. We think this just moves the needle on this issue, and look forward for y'all's favorable consideration. Thank you for the question.
We've got a question, Representative Smith.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, on the last page on line 97, you read that paragraph starting at 95, and it says any vehicle. Well, sometimes the owner of the vehicle may not be driving the vehicle. It may be somebody else that borrowed it, or for whatever reason they have it. So you go down to line 97, and after the word contraband and comma, you got, and no person shall have a property right in them. I'm just wondering if that vehicle's been borrowed, maybe we should strike that language right there, because if it's been borrowed and he doesn't know anything about it, he's lost his car,
That's
truck,
right.
or whatever.
That's right. And I'm totally open to that change. We had that discussion before the committee today. We were kind of late on getting this sub out. We've had a few different versions, as you've probably seen your email. This is the final version we've got, and we did notice that error. We're going to fix that, I think, at with the committee.
Okay. Number 17, Representative Alexander.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know I just got here, so maybe it was already covered. How often is this happening? I guess,
Well, I think
Numbers.
we had a special committee this past summer. We had a lot of testimony from folks like Enterprise Rental Car and other groups who said this is starting to be an almost weekly, if not daily, thing. They're getting them fixed. I think one of them said, if I recall, I've slept since then, but they said they would fix the catalytic converter on the vehicle. They'd park it in the parking lot, and almost seemingly the next day, it'd been cut out again. Some of these cars are bigger. So if you think of your big SUVs, right, your big SUVs and your big trucks and those that have these catalytic converters, they're targets. They got a dollar sign on the side of the door. And they say this one's got a whole lot more of this material in it. And so they are aggressively being sought after by these vandals. So I would say it's happened a whole lot, especially at shopping malls. You got Arbor Place down there in Douglas County. I know for a fact that at Arbor Place Mall, this is happening rampantly, and to the fact where they've had to have security guards out there just to monitor the parking lots, because how many of these things been cut down. So it's a good issue. I appreciate that question, and hopefully we can start solving some of this back in our communities.
Chairman Corbett.
Thank you, Chairman Ridley. And to that point, the special committee we had that met this summer on that, we had testimony from GBI, sheriff's police here in Atlanta, all over the state. It's a huge problem. Insurance companies, we were probably talking in the millions of dollars it's costing insurance companies to replace these catalytic converters. So like he says, I mean, the money they get out of them is, $25, $30, $50 maybe, but it costs $2,000 to $3,000 to replace them.
That's right.
And that either comes out of the owner's pocket, or the insurance company has to pay that. So we appreciate you bringing this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I think that's all the questions. We've got one person signed up to speak, Chip Copeland. Yes, yes, sir, go podium right there, be fine.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Chip Copeland. I'm here on behalf of the Georgia Recyclers Association. Our association represents Georgia's for-profit recycling industry. Like so many others, our members struggle with the issue of catalytic converter theft. One member alone reports in excess of over $100,000 in losses due to catalytic converter theft. We are asking for your support of HB 1528. For years, Georgia has been a national model for enacting effective legislation to combat catalytic converter and other metal theft. HB 1528 further strengthens these laws by updating language based on input from law enforcement in Georgia and in multiple other states to restrict the possession and advertising for the purchase of catalytic converters. Furthermore, the legislation provides a clarification that only a fully compliant registered secondary metals recycler may lawfully purchase catalytic converters. We would be grateful for your support.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right. Well, if there's no questions, and that's the only speaker we got. Oh, we got a question. Representative Prince. Go ahead.
Did you have yours on too? I was going to offer an amendment, right, quick, based on Chairman Smith's recommendation.
Okay. So we have a, I guess, a motion for an amendment, or an offer of amendment. So at this time, if you got an amendment, you want to make a motion?
They can make a motion to amend.
Well, we're going to have to make a motion to, we have to pass first, then.
Pass it first, then make.
All right, so I got a motion to pass.
Second.
And a second. All right, any discussion? Now we can do the amendment.
Offer amendment to line 9-7, after contraband, strike all after contraband. Instead of a comma, make it a period.
So line 97. Oh, I got you. Okay.
That, and it'll flow into line 98, but if you put a period after contraband and then delete all after to the period.
Okay.
Then.
All right. So now we have a, I guess we got a motion on the amendment. Is that right? All right, so now at this time we'll vote on the amendment. No? All right, so we need a motion on the amendment, right? Okay.
That's
Yeah,
what I
he made
did.
a motion on the
I made a
amendment.
motion to amend.
Do a second. Do we have a second? Vance, second. Okay, so we got a motion and a second. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Any noes? All right, so now we have the amendment is passed. So now we'll vote on the bill as amended. All right, so we need a motion on that?
We already
Nope.
got it.
All right, so all in favor, you get down here to crossover, and you forget how to do all this stuff. All right, so all in favor of the bill as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so the bill does pass. All right, now we're gonna move on. I'm being chairman of the corporate, gonna swap seats and just move on to full committee.
In essence of time, we do have a quorum according to our rules. So we will move on into full committee.
Until they start streaming it.
Till they quit streaming.
Until they start streaming it.
I thought they weren't available.
It's not Zoom, but it'll still be
Okay, okay.
So just maybe make
All
an
right.
announcement that we're going to start
All right.
full committee.
We will start full committee just as soon as we get the streaming video up.
And I'll text them. Because they might be, I don't know, they're leaving until 12.
They told me they didn't have it available.
No, the
Zoom one. Okay, okay.
Yeah, I was just trying to make. Whatever he's got, I'm gonna get. Trying to do. Hey, I'm just, I'm like. Yeah, just the, and no person shall have a property. All right. Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, do you just want me to reference this as the subcommittee sub? Okay, because we won't have an
And
LC
it-
number.
And it,
Okay.
there's some came in, just explain what the change was from the sub that we did in committee, in subcommittee. And then, we're good to go. So I will, ask Representative Martin if he will, speak to the bill, House Bill 1528 as amended in subcommittee.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the sake of time, we won't rehash it. I think everybody that's here now was in the subcommittee just moments ago. The one change that we made to the bill was on line 97, starting after contraband, we're adding a period. And per the gentleman's amendment, we're striking "and no person shall have a property right in them."
And explain why we felt that necessary.
I think there was a gentleman's comment, Representative Vance Smith had the comment that if someone had stole or took a car without the owner's permission, that would also be removing their property rights from them, and that's not the intention of this bill.
All right. Thank you. Do we have any further questions for the author?
Just time to make a motion. Proper time.
I do not see any further questions, so now will be the time.
I'll make a motion to pass.
We have a motion to pass, and we have a second. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor of the bill, say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Bill passes. Thank you, and that's all we have today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So, thank you for the bill.